America is one of the most religious countries in the West.
For me, church has always been a source of strength.
I stand before you in this arena only by the grace of Almighty God.
About 2/3 of its voters identify as Christian.
We believe in God. We trust in God for everything He does.
I vote for whoever I feel is the closest to Christianity.
Don't forget, it was founded by radical English Protestants, the Puritan Pilgrim Fathers, and that DNA is threaded through the country's culture, despite a separation of church and state.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr.
Thank
President.
But things are changing. America, on the whole, has become less devout in the last few decades. So what does that mean for the upcoming election? It's easy to think of America as a religious country, but faith here is actually declining. In the 90s, around 90% of Americans identified as Christian. Now, more than a quarter say they have no religion. This shift could prove significant to the election because non-religious people are more likely to vote Democrat. In fact, a Pew survey revealed that 70% of non-religious voters align themselves with the Democratic Party. But religion is not fading at the same rate across the whole of America. In some states, like Florida, it's actually getting stronger. So, while Democrats are making gains in some less religious states, they're also losing voters in other, more conservative parts of the country. And this becomes pretty key when you look at the swing states that determine the outcome of the presidential election. This map, based on the 2020 census, shows how religious different states in the US are. The darker the state, the more religious. You can see that the Deep South is more religious than the North, something which has always been the case for America. Utah and Idaho are a darker shade because of the high proportion of Mormons in those states, while the Northeast, including New York and Massachusetts, looks fairly dark. This changes when you look at specific religious denominations. For example, if we look at evangelical Protestants, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Mississippi and Alabama become much darker. This is what's called the Bible Belt of America. Catholicism is higher in the southwest and northeast areas, known for their concentration of Irish, Italian and Hispanic families. When compared to the 2010 census, you can see that the southwest, which is close to the border with Mexico, has become more Catholic. This is likely due to the increasing number of Hispanic immigrants in these areas. Protestants, the largest single religious group in the United States, mostly align with the Republican Party. White evangelicals are overwhelmingly Republican, and research suggests this group is highly motivated to vote. 84% of black Protestants identify with the Democrats. Just over half of Catholic voters are more likely to vote Republican. Again, it's important to consider race in this. While white Catholics are more Republican, 60% of Hispanic Catholics identify with the Democrats. 3/4 of Mormon voters align themselves with the Republican Party. In contrast, about 7 in 10 Jewish voters associate with the Democrats. That's increased by 8% since 2020. 66% of Muslim voters say they are Democrats or that they lean Democratic. And 70% of religiously unaffiliated voters, as mentioned earlier, align with the Democratic Party. The alignment is even stronger for agnostics or atheists. The main thing to pay attention to is swing states, states which could swing Republican or Democrat. These states determine the overall result of the US presidential election. In the 2020 US election, 7 states were won by less than 3 percentage points, a very tight margin that could change this year. These states were Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, North Carolina and Nevada. These were all won by Biden in 2020, apart from North Carolina, which Trump won. However, in the 2016 elections, Trump won all of these states apart from Nevada. So, which way are they likely to swing now? If we look at trends from the 2010 to the 2020 census, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania and Georgia are trending less religious, while North Carolina, Nevada and Arizona became more religious. If we go with the rough trend that less religious states are more likely to vote for the Democrats and more religious states are more likely to vote for the Republican Party, this makes the race to the White House really tight. One of the main policies that could have a huge impact on the US vote is the abortion issue. In June 2022, the US Supreme Court overturned the constitutional right to choose abortion, known as the Roe v. Wade ruling, leaving the decision to individual states.
So I want to start by addressing some devastating and alarming news from the Arizona Supreme Court. With today's decision, millions of Arizonians will soon face an even more extreme and dangerous abortion ban than they did before.
As a result, 14 of the 50 US states banned abortion at all stages of pregnancy, with incredibly limited exceptions. 4 have banned it past roughly 6 weeks of pregnancy. Underlying the ban was the religious belief that human life begins at conception and that unborn children have a right to life.
Murder is not a right! You don't have a right to murder other people!
It takes 3 to 5 days for that baby to die.
Before then, abortion had been legal across America for almost 50 years.
We are the fourth generation, and we vote to abolish abortion!
While the ruling was celebrated by some Republicans and Christian conservatives who wanted to ban abortion, opinion polls show that the majority of Americans actually support abortion access, and this includes many Christian Americans. In fact, a Pew survey from 2022 found that apart from white evangelicals, the majority of Christians support access to abortion. Surprisingly, this even includes 56% of Catholics, even though the Catholic Church opposes all forms of abortion. Democratic nominee Kamala Harris has come out in strong support of abortion rights across the country.
Ours is a fight for the future, and it is a fight for freedom. Like the freedom of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. And if he wins, Donald Trump will go further. He will sign a national abortion ban, you best believe.
Meanwhile, Republican nominee Donald Trump appointed 3 of the 6 US Supreme Court justices who helped to overturn Roe v. Wade back in 2022. While he has called the ruling a great thing, he's softening his stance on harsh abortion bans.
There's an abortion-related amendment on the ballot to overturn the 6-week ban in Florida. How are you going to vote on that?
Well, I think the 6 week is too short. I am going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. I believe in exceptions for life of the mother. If you look, incest, rape.
Trump's position doesn't exactly align him with the conservative Christians who want to ban abortion nationwide. He has to tread a fine line, as he's heavily reliant on their vote. Both candidates know abortion could be key in this race. A recent poll by the Public Religion Research Institute has found that nearly 2/3 of residents in swing states think abortion should be legal in all or almost all cases. American evangelicals have solidly supported Israel's response to the Hamas attack since October the 7th. Why? Well, partly because of the Bible. Evangelicals take the teaching of the Bible seriously, and in it is prophesied that when the Jewish people return to Israel, a final battle called Armageddon will occur, and Jesus will return to earth. In 2017, a Lifeway poll found that 80% of US evangelical Christians believed that the creation of Israel in 1948 was a fulfillment of the biblical prophecy. This isn't the only reason US leaders support Israel historically, but with so many evangelicals in the country, it's not something the president can easily ignore. Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are firm in their support for Israel.
I will always ensure that Israel is able to defend itself.
We must stand with our friend and partner, the State of Israel. We will, strongly.
That's despite the fact that the US public is pretty divided on Israel's conduct in the war.
You can either be on the right side of history or you can be on the wrong side of history.
And in Michigan, a swing state where there is a large Arab American population, some American Muslims are particularly disappointed with the current administration's stance on the war.
We want it to be recorded in history that President Biden was a one-term president because of the genocide against the Palestinians that he bankrolled.
Nearly all US adults say they want a president who lives a moral and ethical life, and almost half say it's important for the president to have strong religious beliefs. So where do Trump and Harris stand on this? In October 2020, Donald Trump told Religious News Service that although he was confirmed at a Presbyterian church as a child, he now considers himself a non-denominational Christian. Trump's courting of the evangelical vote perhaps explains why he's distanced himself from his Calvinist upbringing. Yet, despite calling himself a Christian, recent surveys show that a majority of Americans think Trump is not very or at all religious. But this, and his recent criminal conviction, doesn't appear to have put off more conservative religious Americans from backing him.
With your vote, I will defend religious liberty in all of its forms. I will protect Christians in our schools, in our military, in our government, in our workplaces, in our hospitals, and in our public square. And I will also protect other religions. We want that, right? Other religions. And we will bring our country back together, one nation under God.
Trump also uses religion to pit himself against the liberal elites, and by implication, the Democrats.
As you know, the radical left is trying to shame Christians, silence you, demoralize you, and they want to keep you out of politics. They don't want you to vote. That's why you have to vote. And we do not answer to the bureaucrats in Washington. We answer to God in heaven.
Kamala Harris is also religious. She is a Baptist with a religiously diverse background. Her father is a Jamaican-born Christian Baptist, her mother an Indian-born Hindu, and her husband is Jewish.
For me, church has always been a source of strength and a place for reflection. And in my private conversations with God, I usually ask for strength and protection and guidance to do the right thing.
But religion isn't, of course, the only issue influencing this election. Strengthening the economy is a top concern for voters, as is crime, healthcare and women's rights. But religion's influence on politics here cannot be overstated. Almost all the former US presidents have been Christian. Religious or not, in this election it will matter.